traveling to consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I am your host, Clayton Cuteri. And in today's podcast, I have a little bit of a headache that I was dealing with last night, and it's carrying over into today. So, in the event that today is not the most eventful podcast or animated, whatever you want to call it, you'll know why. But the show must go on. So, the show is going to go on. So I have a list of everything that has happened since the beginning of the year. And it's pretty crazy. So I don't know what's going on here. It seems like whether it's spiritual, that there's energies going on, they're trying to set off some sort of negative perception of the beginning of the year, which is interesting because I always feel like within the first week, I start seeing some like threads of, I wish it was, I already don't want it to be 2024 anymore. I don't want it to be 2023 anymore. So I wonder if there's like a psychological thing there where the starting of the year, they want to try to create as much, let's say, negative energy as possible. I don't know. That's kind of just like a theory I'm throwing out there. Makes sense though, if that was a thing. But a lot of news has happened since the beginning of the year. So January 1st, we have the guy in New Orleans driving into a crowd, killing 14 people, injuring 35 more. It was crazy. Maybe I'm not really in the headspace, I guess, to really go too deep into some of these topics, but I just want to at least give you guys the updates in case this is like your source of informational news that, we put out there. Also on January 1st, there was a Cybertruck rigged with explosives that detonated outside Trump Hotel in Vegas, killed one person, which is actually the guy who detonated it. And I don't know, it seems like a pretty wild situation. There could be foul play involved there. Several more injured. Very interesting. Actually, a very good, not good, but an interesting promotional piece if you are Tesla, because the Cybertruck like protected everyone else that was around it. So a very strong vehicle. So two things that were very interesting about the New Orleans guy and the Cybertruck guy is they both had military backgrounds, and both of them seem pretty stable, which is always a very interesting thing. And I don't know, there's a part of me that never wants to trust the media. So it's kind of one of those things where I feel like I'm always looking for like an extra little, like, whoa, what's this type deal? I know Ian Carroll, he put out a pretty good video on Instagram regarding specifically the Cybertruck guy and why it was like a psyop. So go check out that if you're interested. I don't know. I think you can kind of get lost in the weeds sometimes with it and look for things that may not be there. I think the other interesting thing is they both ended up using Turo to rent these cars, which I don't know the connection there. I don't know if Turo is behind all this. No, I'm just kidding. But you have that. And then also on January 1st, there was a shooting in Jamaica, Queens, where no one was killed, 10 were injured. Again, what is going on at the beginning of this year? We also had more drones that were spotted in Florida that were pretty crazy. Some crazy views there. And then the next day, speaking of all these aviation disasters, I don't know if you've been paying attention to all those, but a plane crashed in Southern California, which killed 2 and injured 18, which I think is just, it's wild how many aviation disasters have happened in the last 2 months. Like, it's just statistically, astronomically insane. It's a lot. It's astronomical. For more political news, the Department of Justice found that the Department of Justice spent over $100 million on DEI, so diversity, equity, and inclusion education programs over the last 4 years. $100 million. I mean, I've talked to some business owners, and it seems like these practices are doing more harm than good. So to add insult to injury, looks like we're adding our debt of $100 million to that. And I want to be very clear that it's very important that we should be inclusive, that we should care about people. Diversity is very important, diversity of thought. I'm a big proponent of the idea of meritocracy, though, which is we base it on people's abilities. We base it on what they can do. Because when we start playing the game of what's your gender, what's your sex, what's your skin color, what's your ethnicity, that's not the direction that we should be aiming or striving for as a people. We should be striving for where the color of your skin does not matter. We should be striving for a place where your sexual orientation, your gender, it doesn't matter. So, in the weirdest way in the world, I feel like these education, DEI specifically, does more harm than it does good. I mean, I even see on X from time to time, and it's very sad, where you might have someone who would be like, let's say, black and a female or transgender, and they're in a position of, authority. And I have no idea. I don't know anything about them, but, you have people who start calling them DEI hires. And I think that's just tragic. I mean, I think that's so tragic because, like, what if that person actually is great at what they're doing? I don't know in these specific situations, but what if they are great? And yet it gets tainted because of these initiatives where the government is encouraging companies to hire based on skin color and gender and sex and race. So to me, we really need to be pushing back towards a meritocracy. If you don't know, a meritocracy is just based on your ability, your competency, your, ability to do the job right. And I really do think that that's a direction that we're going wrong in this country. And I think what's also interesting about that is, as an example, I know like in Pittsburgh, there's certain sectors, there's certain fields. So like, I'm in construction. I have a construction 3D modeling company. And I remember looking at some of the statistics because they say, like, the DEI will say that you need to have, they encourage it. But sometimes there's projects where you bid on it and they want like 25% of your firm to be black, let's say, or like 25% of the architects need to be black, something like that. Well, you look at the number of architects in Pittsburgh, the percentage of architects in Pittsburgh who are black, and that number's 2%. So you get these situations that are just impossible. It's impossible. So now you've created a situation where maybe the best firm is not going to be bidding on a project. And that's just in architecture. I assume that this is happening in every field. And it's going to hurt small businesses because they cannot afford to bring people on that are less qualified than what is needed. And I'm not saying that by any means. I mean, I'm sure there's very capable. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are black that are far better architects than white. But if they just don't exist, then you have to start paying people to just be on your team, even if they're terrible architects. And I think that creates a lot of issues in many ways, especially with architecture. I mean, you have to be very intelligent and you have to have beauty. You have to want to do it. It's one of those things where you need the passion, because if you don't have the passion, if you don't have the desire, you don't have the willpower, you don't have that creative mindset, then we're going to end up creating just giant square boxes. And that's essentially what's been happening. And so we lose the beauty. We lose the beauty in our society. And I think that's a big reason I started this modeling company too, was looking around the city of Pittsburgh and realizing how in the buildings, there's no life. You don't feel it anymore when you walk through like a city. And I mean, you see some buildings in Pittsburgh, but those buildings are the ones that have been there for 100, 200 years. Nobody puts that type of passion into buildings anymore. In other news, this is a little bit more tragic. There's a series of events where in subway stations, women are being burned alive, some homeless women. And I also found some articles that in foreign countries, it's happening as well for like the most mundane things, guys. So we got to be doing a better job to set a better standard in America. and quite frankly, the world of how we treat our women, how women are treated. Because I feel as though right now we don't have any strong leaders who want to, how do you articulate that? Who want to acknowledge these things. And honestly, maybe the answer is that we need more women in a position of power, in a position of authority. So if you are a lady, a female, and I know majority of you listening are female, and you feel that call, you see these travesties happening, whether it's on a subway in New York or a lady in the Middle East who, I don't know, maybe walked the wrong direction or did some small nuanced and it cost her life to go up in a blaze, then I'd love to call on you to join the American Congress Party. Because I know it might seem small, it might seem like a very subtle step, but we have to start by taking very small and subtle steps if we want to get into a position of power and authority so that we can set the tone for the next generation. And that tone being that we care about everyone, that we're here to honor women, that we're here to honor that individual soul that lives within all of us. And so I know a lot of women have answered that call, the American Congress Party. I mean, I think we have like 3 men currently and then like 7 women a part of it. And it's fantastic, honestly. I think makes it so powerful. And so I know our kind of ethos of caring about the next generation, protecting nature, healing nature, chemical free food, protecting innocence, protecting innocent children, stopping war, nuclear disarmament, reducing medication costs. In it'll start off by reduction, but eventually free medication for all. Because if we're healthy, if we're not poisoning our food, we won't need the medicine. Our bodies will be able to heal naturally on their own. It's a very powerful thing that you have right below you. It's a very powerful thing that you're using right now to listen to this podcast. And so there's something about it. I don't know what it is. I'm not tapped in, but there's something about women that I feel like they see it on another level. And I really think that, and I guess I hope, and that's why I'm making a plea right now to women that we need more of you. I mean, I know over my life, I haven't, how do you articulate this? I mean, the world that I've grown up in, you kind of don't truly see, or it's not like truly on display, the beauty and the power that resides in everybody. Yeah, but definitely women for sure. It seems like all humans are like a level down, but then like women might be another level down, and it could be on purpose. If we're looking at it from a spiritual lens, it could be on purpose. The energies don't want women to be powerful because they understand the power of caring about others. They understand the power of, nurturing the next generation, of being motherly, of being caring, of being loving. And we need more divine women like that. And it really saddens me whenever we look around and the women that I see at the top of the political food chain, the top of the political energy atmosphere are people like Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. Like, those are the 2 women that come to mind for me. And I don't see them as being, I want to say it humbly, because I mean, they I'm sure if I got a beer with either of them, we'd be cool. But like, I don't see them as being the beacon. I don't see them as being the gold standard that embodies what it means to be a woman. So, and I think that it would be really powerful to have more women in charge, to show it, divine women in charge. Let's say that. You can't just be a woman, right? This goes back to our whole DEI thing. We don't want just any woman being in a position of power, but the ones who truly can connect with their heart, the ones that can truly see the future, see the power that resides in, what that means. And caring for the people. And I mean, speaking of Hillary Clinton, this is crazy. I don't know if you guys saw this. but the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is used to honor, it's like the highest medal for civil service. President Biden awarded Hillary Clinton the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And if you don't know, Hillary Clinton has killed millions of people with her when she was Secretary of State. And I don't mean directly, don't take me out of context. I didn't mean she directly, but she is responsible for the death of hundreds of thousands of people with her actions and things that she has decided. And I mean, there's a whole web of people who have been close to Hillary who have died, and that's upwards of 50 people if you want to look that up. So I find it a travesty that this medal that's supposed to be of the highest regard, was placed around her neck. And if you've ever heard of the name George Soros, he was bestowed upon this whole Medal of Freedom. And if you don't know who George Soros is, he's a billionaire. He has nonprofits, but all of these nonprofits are linked to the overthrowing of foreign governments, the toppling of regimes. And so, you put him in the mix too. We're talking about the death and killing of millions and millions of people. So it's very sad. I think it's very sad, the state of the world that we're in, but that really invigorates me, at least. And I hope, as dismal as that sounds, hopefully at some level that invigorates you too. Because as bad as things are, it means that there's room. There's room for people to do good. Because it's so dark, those who are doing good will be so much easier to see. And it's like the whole room is getting dimmer. And you're a bright light, so as it starts to dim, your light will start expanding. And you don't really have to even do much, let's say. I mean, you should, you can, and you should get brighter so that more people can see you. But the more that you illuminate yourself, the more people will come to you. And so, I mean, I've seen that throughout my life, and I just see that as the future of the American Congress Party, is the more that we can connect with our heart, our inner eye, even if the world around us is getting darker, the right people are going to show up whenever they need to show up. And so hopefully that's you listening to this podcast, because there's always something we can do. We gotta try. We gotta try. And, I'm 30 years old, and I've seen enough election cycles at the age of 30 to know that I should not be trusting anyone in politicians. So trust yourself. So hopefully you can at least see that too, that don't even trust me. Come join, keep me in check. Join so that you can have the power, and so that we can collectively make that difference. Because as spiritual people, it's our responsibility to be powerful. One of the greatest lies that I bought into for a long time, I thought it was a truth, was that spiritual people should not be powerful. They shouldn't get into politics. They shouldn't worry about money. That's lower frequency stuff. When the reality is that it's not. It's about who uses it. Yes, the people currently with the most money, with not everybody, okay? I don't want to say everybody, okay? But majority of politicians with a lot of money, right, are lower frequency, let's say, lower vibe, dark entities. So we have to balance the scales at the very least. Are we just going to let those people keep running around with all the money and power? Is that what we want to do? Does that make sense? We can't just turn a blind eye to these things, because that's almost as bad as not doing anything, or doing it yourself. Not doing anything is almost as bad as actually doing it. I mean, I'm getting reminded of that quote. Evil exists because good men do nothing. And evil exists because good women do nothing as well. So we have to try. We have to, at the very least, try. I mean, and I think that that's where I got to in my life is, what's the biggest thing I could aim for? What's the biggest thing I could do? And I came to this realization that becoming rich, becoming politically powerful, and giving people a beacon of hope to create the new world, to create the new earth, to create the new heaven was the best thing that I could do. And honestly, in my mind, there is nothing else that is more powerful than that. And that's okay. That doesn't have to be the most powerful thing for you. But to me, like, that's the driving factor. That's how I'm able to put in 100 to 120 hours of work every single week. Because it's like nothing else matters. Like everything matters. Because everything matters, like that is the pinnacle of what matters. Otherwise, we have nuclear war. Everything goes kaputs. We have a nuclear meltdown. Everything goes kaputs. We have to stop nuclear war. It has to be stopped. They're trying to do it in Russia and Ukraine right now. And it seems like Israel wants to invade Syria and create another war over there. And guess who they're going to tap for money when they start to run out? Yep, you and me, the American Congress. So we need the American Congress Party to say no. We need the American Congress Party to stop this, to stop funding foreign wars, to take care of our own people, to heal our country, to create great things, great buildings, great models of transportation. We don't create great things anymore. We don't. We seriously do not. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I think that building a train, a high-speed train that connects everywhere from New York to Chicago, maybe down to San Francisco, up to Anchorage, Alaska, over to Russia, to Moscow, through the Middle East, into Milan, all the way over to Paris and London and Spain and Barcelona. I think that's something that we should be aiming for as a society. I mean, as a world, like a nation. Like, imagine how powerful this world and humans would be if we just stopped fighting each other and united around making the world a more pure, a more beautiful place. We spend $850 billion in the U.S. alone on defense and military. And because of NATO, other countries as well probably put up in the ballpark of maybe like 200 billion. I might be overshooting that. I don't know the exact number. And that's all just to combat against Russia, because Russia's bad. Putin's bad. When it seems like every single time there's been a proxy war with Russia, it's been encouraged or egged on by NATO. It's like NATO formed to stop Russia, and now it's like NATO's goal now is to like get into a nuclear war with Russia. So it blows my mind. It seriously does. I mean, it doesn't at the same time. The problem is that we have to come together. We have to realize that we're all one world. We're all one people. We have to get past this idea of being Russian or being American. And don't get me wrong, like there's definitely a lot of oomph in that. Like I'm very proud to be born in the United States, in Pittsburgh. But that doesn't mean that it needs to come at the cost because they were born on the other side of the world. Why should I hate that person? They're honestly probably a very good person. So it's in all of our best interests. It's in all of our best interests to come together, to be powerful, to make the world a better place. We have to do that. We have to do that. And what's the alternative? What's the alternative? We keep dividing ourselves. We keep chopping ourselves up into little blocks and pieces so that we're all scattered. That's not a solution. It's not an option. And this is not a task that can be done alone. If I have to go 5, 10, 15, 20 years all at this by myself, I will. If that's what we have to do. But we need people. We need people to join. We need you to join. So shoot me an email. Get on my newsletter. And if you click the link tree or the master link below, maybe you'll see there's a 999 meditation challenge. You can sign up for that. Or if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll get the emails. Almost every week, I'm going live on Instagram with Shelby Moore, and we're doing like a little bit of like some knowledge around energies, around emotions, some spiritual knowledge. And over time, we're going to be putting out meditations so that you all can find that inner peace, that inner balance where you'll be guided by your soul. You'll be connected to your soul. You won't be distracted by the outside world. So go sign up on the newsletter. It's the best thing you can do. I'll shoot you maybe like 2 emails a week. Even if you don't make it to the live, they are recorded. But hurry up and watch them, because in a few weeks, maybe in a month, we're going to be putting it behind a paywall because they're getting crazy good reviews. The reviews on these things are insane. People are loving them. And then we'll give out you guys some meditations. We'll explain the meditations. And then we're going to get into really, really deep spiritual knowledge at some point in time. Some of the knowledge has been given on this podcast. You know of it as Indigo Education. But this knowledge goes even deeper than what I've shared on the podcast. But that's for a later date. I don't want to get too deep into that. Right now, think about what you can do with American Congress Party. Even if it's just sharing this podcast, that's extremely powerful. So share this podcast. Sign up for the newsletter. Link tree down below. You can check out my book too, which is in my link tree. The Secret Teachings of Jesus. I was actually rereading it today and honestly felt like I could have done a little bit better with the language, the way that I worded stuff. But still a great read. Great to get your mind churning of realizing how we've been lied to, how we've been misled in our lives. And we're here to fix that. I'm here. There's a team with me. There's the American Congress Party here. So we have to come back together. We have to realize how powerful we can become. And all it takes is putting aside our differences and saying yes to the American Congress Party. And joining our meditation and newsletter. Because you join that, you're going to learn how to connect to your inner eye. You're going to learn how to be in the world but not of it, which I think is the most important thing. Because like I was saying, we need power, 3D power, physical world power. But we can't be attached to it, because that's where everyone goes wrong. We can't be attached to that power, thinking we need more power. No, we'll get the right amount of power, we'll save nature, and then we'll all live in harmony. So in order to do that, to start that journey, you got to sign up for my newsletter. And you got to hurry too, because the videos are not going to be free forever. It'll probably be another couple of weeks. We're going to put them behind a paywall, and I really want you guys to watch them. It's kind of weird. I know once you put these things behind paywalls, that's when people will actually watch them and absorb it. But if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do. So that's what I'll do. But in the meantime, I want you all to know that I appreciate you. Join. And if you don't join, we're going to have a conversation about it whenever I see you in the 6th dimension.